All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the SnapVDI Virtual Lunch and Learn. My name is Tyler Newberry. I'm the Marketing Programs Manager for SnapVDI, and I'll be your host and moderator for the Lunch and Learn today. With me today is our Director of Channel Products, Justin Bagby, as well as Solutions Engineer, Matthew Tenney. We're also joined by special guest Todd Allison with Johnstone Supply, the Ware Group. Johnstone Supply is a great customer of SnapVDI's, and we're excited that he's here to talk about his experience with SnapVDI with all of us. These guys will be joining us in just a few minutes, but first just wanted to go over a couple of quick things before we got started. So number one, if you're in a pizza delivery zone and requested a pizza during your registration, that pizza should be arriving within the next few minutes if it has not already. Sometimes the delivery person does run a few minutes behind. If they are running late, just please be patient, but be sure to let us know if your pizza has not arrived by 1:10, 1:15 Eastern Time or so. Email is the quickest way to let us know if your pizza has not arrived on time. And the email address that you need to email is Bennett Cheney's, and that's bennettc@ami.com. And I've also listed that email address in your chat screen. So again, if the pizza's not there by 1:15, let us know and we'll get that resolved. This does not go for folks on the West Coast, as we've kind of already let you guys know. Since you're in the West Coast, your restaurants don't open until about 11 a.m. local time, so that's when your deliveries are. But again, you guys should have all been received info on that already. Number two, please ask us questions. We want to provide as much of an interactive experience for all of you as we can. So feel free to shoot your questions over via the Q&A communicator located at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and we'll either get your question live on air or we'll send you a message back on the Q&A communicator. And finally, if we experience any technical difficulties today, such as losing audio or if the screen becomes grainy for a moment, just please bear with us while we fix the issue. Technical issues are rare, but certainly still possible. But that's it. That's all I've got for the boring stuff. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Justin now for part one of the presentation, and then Matthew and Todd Allison will join us a little bit later in the segment for parts 2 and 3 of the presentation. But Justin, they are all yours.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. We appreciate you taking time to spend with us today on the SnapVDI Virtual Lunch and Learn. So this is a VDI presentation, and we're going to talk a little bit about what VDI is. We're going to talk a little bit about our company, American Megatrends. And then as Tyler indicated, when we get towards about two-thirds down the presentation, we're going to bring in Todd Allison from the Ware Group at Johnstone Supply and let him talk a little bit about how VDI has helped them at Johnstone, their road down VDI, what complications they ran into, the successions that they've had, where they're at today. And then we're going to close out with a demo. We're going to show you a live demo of SnapVDI, and then we'll answer all the questions that you guys have. So again, like Tyler said, if you have questions, please feel free to send them over through chat or Q&A. We've already received about 70 or so questions through the registration process. We've got a lot of those answered. Obviously, we won't have time to get to all of them, but we will try to get to as many as we can as time allows. So please continue to send any questions through the chat or through the Q&A, and we'll get to those as we can. If we can't answer them on the air, we'll actually follow up with you via email and provide answers to your questions. All right, so here we go. All right, so just a real quick agenda. We're going to talk about AMI, introduce you to American Megatrends Incorporated, talk for just a few minutes about who AMI is, where we've been, where you know the name from. If you don't know the name, we're probably going to list some products that you'll say, oh, okay, yeah, now I know this company. We'll talk a little bit about the VDI landscape. We'll introduce you to SnapVDI as a product. We'll show you the architecture. We'll talk about the support that comes with the product. We'll talk about the prices versus the price of SnapVDI versus the competitors that are out there. Then we'll move into some of the Johnstone discussions, and then we'll have a technical demo. All right, so just real quick, your host today was Tyler Newberry. He's been with AMI for a little over 4 years. He's the Marketing Programs Manager for our Channel Products Division. He made me say this. He's a proud Clemson Tiger. I don't know why. He loves Clemson football games, the national title game. That's all we hear around the office these days, so go Tigers. I'm the presenter today. My name is Justin Bagby. This is my 17th year with AMI. I've worked in multiple groups here at AMI, from the storage group, within the RAID, the Mega RAID division, within the BIOS division, the remote management. So bounced around from product group to product group and have a lot of expertise in all of those areas. The technical demo is going to be given by Matthew Tenney today. He's been with us for a little over a year. He's one of our solutions engineers within the Channel Products Division, and I'll let him introduce himself as we move through the presentation. And then our customer spotlight today is Mr. Todd Allison, who's the solutions manager from the Johnstone Supply. He's been with Johnstone for a little over 17 years. He's responsible for their core IT systems and infrastructure. He was instrumental in the VDI rollout that they performed in their Florida and South Carolina deployments. All right, so just a real quick overview of AMI. Who is AMI? We were founded in 1985. We have a worldwide presence. We have 9 offices. We have 1,437 employees and a worldwide recognition. More than half of the computers that ship in the world today use an AMI product. And we'll talk about some of those products in just a few moments. From an innovation perspective, we are really big on IP. We have over 375 company patents, billions of products shipped, and we're ISO 9001-2008 certified. Our mission statement is providing our customers the highest quality products the first time, every time. So, for most of you on the call today, you're watching this presentation with either a laptop, a desktop, maybe some type of a notebook or a touchpad or something. And the device that you're using, if it's an x86-based system, which means if it has an Intel or a AMD CPU, a central processor, it's going to have a system BIOS on it. BIOS stands for Beginning Input Output System. AMI is the market leader in the BIOS market. So we started this business back in 1985. It was one of the core products of the company, and it's still one of the flagship products today. Millions of systems are shipped yearly that use the AMI BIOS. It's shipped on servers, storage arrays, notebooks, laptops, embedded devices, workstations, desktops. Just last week, I was in the Atlanta airport taking a flight, and the screen that's supposed to show your flight status for outbound flights, that system had a failed hard drive, and the American Megatrends logo was on that screen. So there's an embedded motherboard sitting there behind it that's controlling that device that's showing your flight status. And unfortunately, the hard drive had failed, and the system was in an error state, but there was proudly the American Megatrends logo. So we got some free advertising in the Atlanta airport. So if you really think about it, AMI is everywhere from this perspective. If you just look at a device and you restart that device, there's greater than an 80% chance you're going to see an AMI logo, the American Megatrends logo, and our AMI BIOS product. Another product that a lot of you have probably used and you just didn't really realize whose product it was is the MegaRAID controller. This is now owned by Avago Broadcom. It's a Broadcom company. If you've used a server from Dell, HP, Supermicro, NEC, Fujitsu, just kind of take your pick of the servers that are in your data center today. It's going to have a RAID controller in that server. That RAID controller has a very high probability of being a MegaRAID controller. AMI started this group back in 1994. We developed what was known as the MegaRAID RAID card. You can see some pictures of it here on the screen. In just 2 short years, we became the #1 RAID card controller in the world. We displaced the other 2 vendors that were previously in that area. In 2001, we sold this off to LSI Logic, who is now owned by Avago, who's now owned by Broadcom. It's still the predominant RAID controller in the world. This was really AMI's footprint into the storage industry. This is where we got our storage start, was in RAID in 1994. Another product, in the servers that you're using in your data centers today, when you look at the front of the bezel, you see the blue lights for activity, the red lights for a failed device, failed drive. You see the green lights for power. Different vendors have different colors and different blinking patterns. All of that's driven through the SGPIO, through LEDs, and it's driven through a backplane controller. We're the market leader in the backplane controller area as well. So they're called MG backplane controllers. So we've been doing this since 2009. We're shipped on almost all Tier 1 server motherboards by OEMs worldwide. This provides control for the SAS, SATA, NVMe drives that are in those systems. Another product that you probably touch on a very regular basis and you just don't realize that it's AMI's product is called our MegaRack product. So for those of you that get your hands down and dirty on your servers or your storage arrays and you're doing remote control from those servers, so remote USB, remote KVM, remote vMedia, anytime you're installing an OS from a remote location, anything that you're doing to access that box, you're usually using IPMI. To get into that box, or remote KVM or remote USB. The MegaRack group was founded in 1997. We created a MegaRack card called the G Series. In 1998, that was adopted by Dell and rebranded as the DRAC card. So if you've ever used the DRAC technology that's in that device, it's based on MegaRack technology. It's deployed in servers and storage arrays worldwide. And then the final product here in the portfolio today we're going to talk about is our Store Trends product. We're a market leader in the SMB storage space. We have thousands of installations worldwide. We sell all flash array SANs, hybrid SANs, and we were selling spinning disk SANs and spinning disk NAS devices until just a couple years ago, since SSDs and now hybrids have really displaced the spinning disk market. Thousands of these have shipped worldwide. We're really well known for the small to medium business aspect from the value that we bring in this product. You get deduplication, compression, thin provisioning. It's VMware, Citrix, Microsoft Hyper-V integrated. It's a really cool product for anyone needing anywhere from just a couple terabytes up to 200 terabytes of storage space. All right, so let's move into the VDI aspect of the presentation. Let's talk a little bit about the landscape. So first off, what is VDI? VDI basically is hosting desktop operating systems within a VM, and it's running on a centralized server. So instead of the application running local at the endpoint device, or local storage at the endpoint device, or local compute at the endpoint device, all of that's been pulled back into a centralized server. So just kind of take a step back and let's go back into the 80s and talk about a mainframe. That's essentially VDI. You have a terminal, everything operates and executes on the mainframe. Basically, your terminal is just a dummy terminal where you're watching the data, you're viewing the data. That is essentially what would be known as a zero client in today's VDI world. So there's no real endpoint or compute for the storage. It's all centralized at the server. Now, you can buy thin clients and have a little bit of computing and a little bit of storage if you need more performance on the endpoint. But most of our customers choose the zero client route, and they push all of the GPU, all of the processing, everything takes place on the centralized servers. So it's a server-centric aspect instead of a client-centric aspect for applications running. So what are the advantages of doing this? First is ease of management. Less management overhead, less management expenses. You don't have a data sprawl. You don't have virus sprawl across all the different endpoint devices like desktops. It's a lot less management involved because you're sitting at one spot and you're managing everything from one centralized location. Second would be uptime. It's really easy to upload and roll out a new image. So there's less downtime. Instead of taking someone's desktop back to your lab, dissecting what's going on with it, running virus protection across it, trying to fix whatever drivers are missing or have become corrupt or whatnot, you're now just re-imaging a VM, spinning up a new VM for that worker and having them log into it. So the uptime is really, really increased here. Also, because you're offered an HA solution, high availability, there's two servers that are always redundant with one another, so they're always in sync. This allows you to have a complete uptime of your desktop, so you're not going to have a VM that fails because you always have an active image. Power savings, less power consumption. A typical desktop computer is going to run somewhere around 50 watts. A typical zero client is going to run somewhere around 7 watts. The same for the server on the back end. The servers have become more power efficient, especially the CPUs that we use in these devices. We're able to offload a lot of the cores and cycle down certain times when we need to. So you're going to save a lot of money in power moving forward with a VDI solution. And then security. There's greater security and greater prevention of viruses from occurring within your infrastructure because now you're scanning everything at a central point before you allow it to come in or go out instead of allowing people to download things and then scanning it on their actual devices. So you can secure your network a lot better with a virtual desktop infrastructure as compared to a typical desktop deployment. And then versatility. A lot of our customers like the versatility aspect with VDI, specifically like the school, for example. If the school wants to implement a VDI infrastructure, but maybe they don't want to take on the cost burden of buying endpoint devices for every student, they'll just tell the students what endpoint devices to buy. They'll say, go get a Chromebook, or they'll say, go get this certain device that's certified for our network, and that's called a bring your own device. So they would implement a BYOD policy. Also, you could have pooled users and persistent users. So if you want someone that has the same desktop every time and it looks familiar, it's got their kid's face on the splash screen, we can set them up as a persistent user so that it remains the same every time. It looks, feels, acts just like a real desktop, even though it's hosted at a centralized server. And then at the same time, you can have pooled users where the session refreshes every time when they come back. They can go to any device within the company and log on with their credentials, and they've got access to a desktop, to the pool that they're using that out of. So there's a lot of different versatility aspects to VDI that allow IT administrators, IT managers, IT directors to really get creative to better understand what serves their company and how to divvy those up. All right, so there's two types of VDI. This is the most common question that we get. We got this question a lot through the registration process. It's basically breaks down into two aspects, integrated and standalone. So integrated VDI is using your existing server storage infrastructure today, just adding a VDI piece to it, and then serving out those VDI images. And on the next slide, I'm going to give an exact example of this. The other option is a standalone VDI. This is deploying VDI and standing it up as a completely segmented aspect from your server and storage infrastructure. So integrated and standalone are our two options for moving forward with VDI. Now, a prime example of an integrated VDI is our StoreTrends product division. These are the SANs that we were talking about on the previous slide, where they are hybrid or all-flash SANs. What most customers would do is they would either have a SAN or they go buy a SAN, source a SAN. They're going to typically use something like VMware Horizon View. That's the most common product used in an integrated solution. It could also be Citrix in that regard. But you have to buy additional servers or additional SANs to expand that existing environment, and then you add that in. So you'll tack on VMware Horizon View, you'll add that into vCenter, and then you're up and running with some VDI. The next option is the standalone version. So SnapVDI was created based on input from our StoreTrends customers. A lot of our StoreTrends customers tried to roll out either Citrix or they tried to roll out VMware Horizon View. They tried to do it on their existing infrastructure with their existing servers and storage, and they failed miserably. They ran into performance issues. They created more problems on their current infrastructure. They created more latency on their storage arrays. Their applications are timing out. Just a whole myriad of issues occurred from trying to share VDI across your existing server and storage infrastructure. So a lot of our customers really echoed that they want a standalone solution. The problem with a standalone solution is you duplicate everything. You have to have double the servers, double the SAN, double the software. It gets pricey. So we took a long, hard look at this and decided that we could come up with a Microsoft-based solution called SnapVDI by adding our own intelligence into the storage, the RAID, the caching aspect, which is what we're really good at from a storage footprint as our company. And we could create a cost-effective VDI solution to allow someone to have a standalone environment. So this is a completely segmented VDI environment. The only thing that it ties into is the existing network, DHCP, Active Directory, and firewall. Everything else is provided with a little bow on the top, tied up, ready to go, ready to implement into your rack. So it separates the application and database traffic and performance from your VDI environment. So SnapVDI is a true standalone VDI solution. So there's 6 major components to SnapVDI. The first is known as Spark. And in a couple slides, I'm going to tell you what Spark is and how it is advantageous to you to use this technology. The second piece would be the physical servers. There's 2 servers in this solution. They're in HA. They're clustered together. So there's complete redundancy and no single point of failure between the servers. The same for the storage. There's going to be a storage box that's provided that sits below the servers that allows for centralized storage of the solution. The third piece is our SnapVDI Manager. This is what actually sits on top of the Hyper-V. We control Hyper-V, Spark, and all of the pieces of the puzzle through the SnapVDI Manager. That's the demo that we're going to show you at the end of this session that Matthew will go through and provide information on how we do things in SnapVDI Manager, the wizards that we bring to the table, and so forth. The fifth piece is our Zero Client. We offer both a Zero Client and a Thin Client. Again, a Zero Client has very limited RAM and CPU functionality. It's nearly zero. The Thin has some added CPU, added RAM, added processing. So if you have a very high performance, if you're using something that requires, let's say your applications are CAD or there's something that's really heavy and you've got a lot of power users, you're going to want to go with a Thin Client versus a Zero Client. But if you're using knowledge users and you're using a typical, let's say your infrastructure is using just typical Microsoft applications, CRMs, ERPs, things of that nature, Zero Clients are more than suffice. And then the sixth and final piece is your Microsoft server and the user licenses that are accompanied with those Microsoft licensing. And we're going to talk about each of these 6 components in depth as we move through the day. So first I want to expose you to our architecture, and I want to explain to you a little bit about what we call a brick. So when we sell SnapVDI, we sell it as a brick. There's multiple configurations of the bricks so that you can stack the bricks to get them to the exact user count and density that you need. We start with a Snap brick called a B50. That's for 50 knowledge users. And it moves all the way up, and we can get into the thousands as needed to meet your specific requirements. So when you purchase a brick, the brick comes with the SnapVDI servers, the SnapVDI storage. The servers are NHA. We're going to be running Microsoft Enterprise Server Cluster on that. SnapVDI Manager is going to manage that cluster. It's going to manage Hyper-V, and it's going to serve out those VMs. And then we're going to tie into your existing network, where you're going to use your switches, your cables, your DHCP server, your Active Directory, and your firewall. And if you don't have that, we can provide that as well. It can be 100% turnkey, but most of our customers do bring their own network infrastructure to the table. It's already pre-wired in their building. They're simply typically replacing desktops that are already connected through all of this. And then on the very top end are the SnapVDI Zero clients, and again, it could be thin clients. Our Zero clients come with dual HD resolution in 1920 by 1080. You would have a monitor, keyboard, and a mouse, which you provide. And you simply connect those up to the Zero clients, and then through the network, the Zero clients are going to connect to the SnapVDI Manager, to the VMs, and you have VDI access for your employees. So that's a very high-level view of the architecture. So let's dive in just a little bit and talk about the servers and the storage, two of the main components of SnapVDI. So there's two servers that are provided. They're NHA. They provide auto failover, so they're clustered together. So it's a complete redundancy against any single point of failure. In the event that the primary fails, the secondary automatically picks up, and your users know nothing's happened because it's virtualized. It's got 5 nines of reliability, so it ensures the VDI infrastructure is always up, and it's always on, and it's always running. And there's no scheduled maintenance windows because we can upgrade one server at a time. So we'll actually work on the passive server, upgrade the firmware, the software, the Microsoft imaging on the passive, and then we'll fail over and then work on the active. So we can do this without scheduling maintenance time. So there's no need to meet us at the data center at 2 a.m., to do an upgrade on this system. From a storage perspective, it's centralized storage. So we store the user data and we protect it with our own RAID and our snapshots, and then we can also replicate that data to a secondary repository. We can replicate it locally on your network, or we can replicate it to a DR site so that we have it backed up and available. We can replicate it for true data protection. And then the storage and the servers all come with field replaceable units. That's hot swappable power supplies, drives, and fans. So SnapVDI Spark, this is really the performance of the SnapVDI infrastructure architecture. It provides extreme performance. This is how we accelerate the I/O for the graphics in the network. So instead of trying to do something with maybe NVMe or cache, we actually use software algorithms that we've been using for a long time in our storage stack and in our RAID to do this. So this is what we're doing. We're providing software-level intelligent caching and data storage and the movement of that data up and down between RAM, SSD, and HDD within the system. So that tiering that's taking place is all controlled by Spark. So that's how we get this thing faster than a desktop. So some of the highlights, it's faster than a desktop. It boots the entire VDI infrastructure in seconds. We keep some of our VMs hot, or what we call warm, which allows you to have instant VM access so that when the user logs in, as soon as they finish that last digit of their password and they hit enter, their screen's up and it's readily available. They can launch Chrome, Internet Explorer, they can do whatever action they're ready to do. It provides an instant application access and launch perspective. So it's kind of like a pre-boot, per se, for the BIOS inside of a laptop. It allows the user to have a faster or better than desktop experience because now they're not waiting on the desktop to boot up. They're not waiting on the desktop to do anything in its background. It requires 90% less storage than a typical VDI solution or a typical desktop. This is because of the data deduplication technology that's baked into it. So we're deduping the block layer within the system. It allows for faster VM provisioning, faster cloning, and it's just going to give an improved user productivity perspective to your users. So SnapVDI Manager, this is basically the GUI for the box. So everything that you touch, everything that you do is through SnapVDI Manager. It makes VDI very easy. It's simplified management. It's a single point of access for everything that you do in the box. It's going to monitor, manage, and provision all the VDI components. You can do the OS provisioning, remote software installation, patch management. It's where you're going to create your templates. It's where you're going to manage your users, your storage, your zero clients or thin clients. You can create, delete, modify your VM pools, and you can do all of your SnapVDI either locally or remotely. You can manage it through the SnapVDI Manager. And Matthew Tenney, the solutions engineer on the call today, he's going to show you a demo of the SnapVDI Manager in just a few minutes. And he's going to dive into some of the new features of this demo, like our wizards that we use. So we realize that you guys and gals are not doing VDI on a daily basis. It's a lot of the kind of set it and forget it mentality that takes place. Once you set up a specific pool, you have users on that pool, you want it just to run. But if you need to come back and make a change, you need to add a user, you need to create a new template, you need to create a new image. What did I do 2 months ago when I created those images? I don't remember. It was 2 months ago. I've done a lot since then. We try to make it easy for you. So we have wizards for all of those pieces and those functionalities within this GUI that really drive you through each of those pieces. So that way you're not lost. You know, it's a very usable GUI that's really easy to understand. So we kind of took the KISS model here, keep it simple, silly, and just wanted to make it very easy to use for you. All right, one of the other pieces that's very important is the SnapVDI Zero client. We call these our A810s. This is actually what we call a SoC. It's a state-of-the-art system on a chip. It comes with our own firmware on it. So unlike other vendors, if you go buy a VMware Horizon View technology, today, you're going to be using a Dell Wise thin client or an HP thin client or something like that. You're not going to be using a VMware thin client or a VMware Zero client. We actually have a huge advantage here because we've created our own firmware for our own Zero client. This allows us to communicate with our Spark and communicate with our manager at a level that no other vendor can. So you're not only going to see greater performance, you're going to see greater control. You're going to have greater manageability. Manageability such as USB port control. We can lock all the USB ports for security. So a lot of credit unions, banking facilities, financial institutions, they really like the USB port control because they can avoid data loss. They can avoid virus injection or data theft. And a lot of the Zero clients, thin clients, you can just slide in a USB key, copy whatever you want to copy, take some screenshots, and off you walk. We can prevent that. We can lock it down so that they can't get access to it, and that way they can't steal the data. So it's good for a secure environment. Also, the wattage of the power, we're only running around 7 watts at full load compared to a desktop that's going to run at about 50 watts. We can do network power on and power off for advanced power settings. So in the event that your employees come in at 8 in the morning and they leave at 5 in the afternoon, we'll warm all the VMs up, we'll enable all of the Zero clients and bring them online at 7:45. That way at 8 o'clock they're ready to go, they're all up and active, and it's an instant log on. But at 5:15 we can shut them all down. So they're not running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're not dependent on your users to turn them on and off. We can have all those policy settings done through our device. And then they also support dual monitors, so you can have 2 monitors connected to the Zero client at any time. All right, so the final piece, Microsoft licenses. I actually got a pretty good chuckle when I was reviewing the questions right before the call today. Tyler showed me some of the questions that came in, and one of the questions that was on here was, how is Microsoft going to screw us with the licenses? So I thought that was pretty funny. We are a Microsoft-based solution, so there are Microsoft licenses that are required for SnapVDI to run. We require 2 server licenses, Microsoft Server 2016 Data Center, which it is based on the number of CPU cores. So if you take a brick 50, a B50, it's going to have a specific number of CPU cores, whereas a B300 or a B600 for 300 users or 600 users, they're going to be more beefier CPUs with more cores. So the number of cores are dependent upon the brick configuration that you select. And then you're going to need a Microsoft Assurance license for that server license. And then there's 3 user licenses that are required. You're going to need the Remote Desktop Services, the RDS CAL. You're going to need the VDA subscription license, and you're also going to need a software assurance for that CAL license, and that's 1 per user. The SnapVDI solution, it can be sold with the Microsoft licenses, or you can bring your own licenses to the table. Let's close out on support really quick. One call, that's all. Avoid dealing with multiple vendors. Instead of having vendors finger pointing at one another, you're calling a 1-800 number where you're going to have a SnapVDI engineer answer the call 24/7. We have a slew of engineers that sit in our response unit that are doing nothing but helping you with any issues that you have, whether it's build an image, whether it's recover a file. We're here to support you 24/7. We offer 4-hour and next business day on-site support depending on what your requirements are. And then we have 0 downtime maintenance with scheduled upgrade assistance. You can schedule that through our support center. You'll actually have a solutions engineer readily available with you on the phone to help you walk through the scheduled upgrade. The support terms are 1 to 5 years. And you can see some of the quotes below. This is something that we really pride ourselves on because we've recognized over the past 14 years since we've been in the channel game with our StoreTrends product line that everyone sells an appliance, everyone sells some type of device. It's really the service that sets itself apart. And this is how we've been able to achieve thousands of customers over such a short period of time and grow as rapidly as we have, is just offering a service level that matches no other in the industry. All right. So let's jump into some pricing really quick and talk a little bit about the SnapVDI pricing versus the competitors. So the current slide here, this is a competing slide against a Cisco UCS mini blade server, and it has a pure storage flash array, their smallest flash array, the M10, on the back end, and it's running VMware Horizon 7 standard. The thin clients that we used are the Dell Wise 5010 thin clients. So if you went out to your local reseller today and said, I want to do VDI, this is a very common setup that they're going to try to pitch you. This is a very common configuration of multiple products that they put together and try to bring a solution to you. You can see at the bottom there in the green, it costs $649.36 per user, whereas with SnapVDI in a very similar setup, but all products from AMI, from SnapVDI, minus the Microsoft licensing. Now, the licensing is included in this pricing proposal. We use standard pricing for the Microsoft licenses, and you can see that we came out to $545.27 per user. So it's a SnapVDI savings of about $47,000. That's a tremendous amount of savings, especially from a vendor that brings everything to you in a complete solution as compared to something you're going to have to assemble and put together on your own accord. The next slide, we have a lot of people ask us about hyperconverged. How does your solution compare to hyperconverged? I'm thinking of going hyperconverged. Here's a comparison between SnapVDI and SimpliVity. The SimpliVity OmniCube, you have to have 2 OmniCubes in the cluster. It's also running VMware Horizon 7, and then we used the same Dell Wise 5010 thin clients. The solution was $643.33 per user, whereas SnapVDI was the $545.27 based on 150 seats. So this is our brick 150. You can see the SnapVDI savings were about $44,000. So still a tremendous amount of savings and value here baked into SnapVDI. And again, everything from one vendor, one place to go for your support, one place to go for your training, one place to go for total integration. All right, so now we're going to turn it over to Todd Allison. Todd, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So,
all right.
Todd, we're going to turn it over to you. He's the solutions manager at Johnstone Supply, and he's going to share with you a few slides here on the VDI road that has gone through Johnstone Supply, the Ware Group.
All right.
Go ahead,
so,
Todd.
you know, just a little bit about us. We're Johnstone Supply. It's more like a franchise. We call it a co-op. And we are the largest member of the co-op. We have 26 locations, about 40 million in stock. Our IT staff is 4 members, and that's to support the infrastructure and the ERP side of life. We just keep on moving. What we did, you know, in February when we went to VDI, you know, we dabbled in it, you know, tried to do the proof of concept with the VM Horizons, and the concept was there. It was just very, you know, for the IT staff I had was very limited on the skill set. So the rollout took a lot of time. It took a lot of configuration, and it was mainly just a headache. The pros of VDI were there, but the headache of configuration was very overwhelming. I saw the webinar just like we're on now, and we approached them, and, you know, we decided to do their proof of concept, which was great. And when they talk about support, I would say that the support is bar none, the best support I've ever seen. If I call, if I had a problem integrating, you know, some of our devices, our USB devices, I would send them the device. They'd come out with new firmware on their Zero client. I mean, bar none, the best support I could ever say. You know, we did an acquisition in February, and we had 8 locations in South Florida. And I pretty much called this my acquisition in a box. In one weekend, I was able to deploy VDI, have it all up and working, and Monday morning, I had 8 locations with 72 users log in to the VDI, and they were part of my network. I ripped off all their computers so I didn't have the virus problems. And we were up and running in a matter of, like I said, over a weekend. We did a full refresh with all SnapVDI, and we're running well on it before. We had a few minor issues, but again, the support was right there on our side, and they had it resolved before it even became a real issue. Where did we start? I'm going through the slides. I don't know where we're at. Okay. As far as cost, you know, the price that I got, I was looking at doing VM Horizons, and my cost of a SAN pretty much covered my cost of their whole solution. So that was a, you know, a no-brainer there. And the management, you know, they came on and trained my guys. They did everything. You know, as a solutions manager, I'm working on 50 other projects. Worrying about desktops was not one of them, and they totally, you know, took care of that for me. We had it up and running, and I think our proof of concept, we were up and running in 2 days. The performance, again, with the acquisition, I had low bandwidth solutions. With the acquisition, the quickest lines I can get into the buildings were copper, so, you know, 1.5 with an average to 10 to 20 users per site. We brought it into 1.5. We added all the VDI clients, and off they're running. I don't get any performances on network just because of the low, you know, the great performance in them. We started off with the smaller brick because, again, it was my acquisition in a box. I needed something right now, and they provided that with no problem. The POC was great. They made sure all my devices were integrated and came up with the firmware before even coming in. So when I rolled it out, pretty much it was all working. And as for support, again, I cannot say the best support. I had a problem in Lauderdale. Next thing I know, I had an engineer in Lauderdale show up. They did all their logs. They met me in Jacksonville, and I don't know who their support guy is, but he comes in with one of those little lab coats and walks us in my data center. I think it's great. And again, it works. We got our biggest problem with VDI was our ERP is a Java-based ERP, so, you know, we just had to throw a little bit more power than the standard, you know, system. But we worked through that, and once we got the process upgraded, it works fine. We're doing, I have, again, those 80 users, and they're probably doing, I don't know, 3,000 transactions a day through the ERP. We want to go to the next slide.
I think that's it, Todd. So
that's it.
Great. Appreciate your sharing your use of VDI and how you kind of went down the VDI road and why you selected SnapVDI. So thank you very much for that today.
No problem.
And if anyone has questions for Todd about his infrastructure, you can feel free to put those in the chat, and we'll try to get to those in just a few minutes. But I'm going to turn it over to Matthew Tenney now and let him do an actual live demo of SnapVDI.
Yep. Before you get started, Matthew, I will say we only have about 15 minutes left, so if you do have questions, please get those in sooner rather than later. We try to be very mindful of everyone's time, so we'll get you out of here, you know, right at 2 o'clock on the dot. So just make sure you get those in, again, if you do have questions. But, Matthew, they are all yours.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Justin. All right. It's my esteemed pleasure to walk you through the SnapVDI Manager. By the way, I'm Matthew Tinney. I'm a solutions engineer here at SnapVDI. I've been working on this product ever since it was released last year, so I've got a good experience of all the bells and whistles that have gone into this. So this is actually our newest UI release that we're looking forward to giving to all of our customers later this year after it goes through a few more validation checks. And what we've done with the new release is add a whole bunch of wizards to allow the systems administrator who uses this solution to roll out everything they need for VDI in one go. So going onto the dashboard, the first thing that we've implemented is a breakdown of everything going on within our system. So here we can see the physical components, make sure that they're all online and running. See a breakdown of the usage of our Spark disks in our solution, make sure that they are utilizing their resources correctly. We also have a breakdown on the different wizards that we can use for our solution and a quick reference for all the virtual desktop collections we already have rolled out. So here on the control panel, we have 5 different options. The center 3 are the wizards you'd use to roll out the different pieces and aspects of VDI, whereas these 2 end components are full rollout VM, so everything in one go. Simply put in all the inputs and let it rip, and uploading the actual ISO images that you'll be using for your VDI solution. And of course, this does allow you to go in and select your shared path to wherever your ISOs are, give them a name and upload them, and they'll be ready to roll. So what I'll do now is kind of give you a full user experience of setting up and implementing your VDI solution. So right now, I'll go click on our master wizard. First thing it'll want you to do is select the type of ISO that you want your solution to run off of, so I'll just grab an arbitrary one. Looks like I grabbed the Windows 7 one. So we do support Windows 7, 8, 8.1, and 10. Also have all of the information populated here. Most importantly, we automatically update and roll out all the new firmware that Windows has in a single go during the creation cycle. If you do want to do that manually, we do have that option, but we'd advise against it. So with that selected, the next step is the hardware. What resources on a hardware level will these VMs have? So as the archetypical standard, there are 3. There's task, knowledge, and power. Task is what a lot of vendors are throwing around these days. It's the bare minimums. It's for users that are simply opening documents, changing PDFs, maybe working in Excel, saving those and emailing them off. Knowledge is a little higher. That allows better usability for videos and high-powered applications. And last is power, which are for people that are utilizing things such as graphics engines, maybe Photoshop or CAD, things of those nature. These are predefined. We can actually do a custom option as well. Go in, select the actual number of processors and their usage rate, as well as memory and a few other high-tech stuff. But for quicker rollout, we have these already pre-configured. We'll select knowledge and keep going. So now we have the OS profile and the hardware profile. The next option is to integrate this with our Active Directory. So I'll just go ahead and grab the admin real quick to the list, throw in his password, and now we're good. We'll select the name of the VM. For this purpose, we selected Windows 7, and we're using a knowledge, so I'll just give it this name, W7K. Now that that's done, we're already into the second stage of rollout, which is the template creation. So we have the VM, and this is what we're now converting into a golden image. This image will then populate a whole bunch of desktops for multiple users to utilize. So now that we have the VM fully created, the template name, we'll go ahead and say that this will become the W7K temp. Well, it's the next stage, collection. So this is what we will be taking. We're taking that golden image we just made, and we're spawning a whole bunch of different desktops for your users. So for a use case, let's say that we want to roll out a new set of VMs for our marketing team. So we can simply name the collection marketing and give it a quick prefix. This is just a quick reference to all the clients that we're rolling out, so we'll just give it a capital M. Next, we have the collection type. Do we want these to be pooled, which is similar to what you'd expect to see in education or in libraries, where every time you log on, it regresses to its default state, whereas personalized is more for people that want everything they do, every change they make, saved for their next session, kind of like what you'd expect from a home desktop. We're also going to select and say that there are going to be 5 members or 5 VMs needed for the marketing team, and set up a few sizes for their storage. So by default, we'll go ahead and give them 10 gigs of space. Next, we can select the users who will actually be able to utilize these VMs after rollout. So we have 5 VMs available, so we'll go ahead and grab 5 arbitrary users. Of course, we can add more users than just 5, but only 5 will be able to use these VMs at a time. And of course, if we do need more VMs, we can do that now or later in the process. And now we're finished. All we have to do now is click Finish. Everything we just set up will go ahead and start rolling out. It'll populate on our trackers for both our tasks during creation as well as the wizard console that allows you to know the progress of anything you have going on in your system. With that, we can move into the solution. It's completely rolled out. The users now have access to all the endpoint devices, and now we can keep track, monitor, and use a lot of our management tools on those collections. For example, I can go and select one of the VMs we rolled out. I can see all the stats on it. I can select all the tools for modifying it or assigning a user to it. But more importantly, here with this mega pool, which is our pooled group, this controls all the VMs you see below it, all 10 of these. So all at one time, we can go in and say, all right, I want to update the software on all of these VMs because they're all exact duplicates in this mega pool. Well, we can do that with great ease. Select the patch and software and allow it to update seamlessly across all of them so they're all in sync. They all have the exact same patch applied to them. We can also go on a more controlled level and use the ability to connect to it directly so we can see what's going on in the system, as well as stopping and starting the session. Beyond just what we can see in the desktop Explorer, we also give power to utilizing the users and the clients that are part of this solution. So here we can go into the user policies, see what users we have, as well as their policy profile, which we can find here. What this allows us to do is select who has what rights when they log into one of our Zero clients for our SnapVDI solution. So here we can see the administrator has full rights of everything, but more importantly, for example, we have the guest profile, which disables a lot of functionality so that you have more control when they're logged into a session, such as disabling their ability to utilize the USB or audio jacks, or changing the Wi-Fi if you have set firewalls or profile settings in that regards. We also fully support all of the hardware from this management console as well, so we can go more in depth into the node clusters as well as the hard disks that are a part of this solution. We can jump in, see what's going on in the physical side of things.
All right. So I think, Matthew, we're going to have to pause here. It's 1:56, so we've only got 4 more minutes. We're going to jump into the Q&A. We appreciate the GUI there. The demo, if anyone wants to see a detailed demo of the SnapVDI GUI, feel free to contact us. We're going to put our contact info up at the end of the presentation. You can email any of us that's listed there on the slide, and we'll be glad to set you up with our solutions engineering team. and they can schedule a 30-minute or a 1-hour block with you to kind of go through the product in a little more depth and talk a little bit about your infrastructure and how it might plug in. So again, if you'd like to see an in-depth demo, just feel free to drop us an email with our contact info at the end of the slide. All right, so let's move into the Q&A session here. We've got a lot of questions and not enough time to answer. Just going to jump in here and start with the first few here. This is from Mark. Mark said, he asked, curious about the desktop deployment speed across a WAN connection. So Matthew, will you take that one for us?
Yeah, great question, Mark. We run into a lot of customers that struggle with VDI across the WAN. There are a lot of components involved with VDI across a WAN, from a bandwidth IP provider to multiple networks and sub-networks for long distance. Johnstone Supply, whom is our featured customer on the WebEx today, has SnapVDI installed in their local Jacksonville, Florida location, and it serves users all the way up into South Carolina and South Florida. AMI has tested SnapVDI hosted from Norcross, Georgia, the office there, all the way into Chennai, India, and it was a successful, usable desktop experience.
Okay. All right, so let's go to the next one. We've got a question from Keith from Tractor Supply. He asked operational, supportability, security, PCI. I guess he's looking for just some information around those pieces of it.
Okay. Yeah. So the manageability of our solution is bar none. Our goal is to present you with all of the pertinent information up front so that you need not spend your entire day deploying and monitoring your VDI solution. As for security, VDI solutions as a whole offer great security protocols which prevent external intrusion into your environment. On top of that, we can integrate your existing security software into SnapVDI. And yes, for those of you looking to utilize SnapVDI for card payments and point of sales, we fully support the needed encryption to keep your data safe.
All right, good deal. So this is from Tony. He wants to know how hard it is to build an image for 20 different versions of the same machine.
This is very easy. We have a wizard that allows you to build a template for an image and then clone it, that same image. The template can also be cloned. When you want to change the image or template, it is very simple to add and remove utilizing the wizards. SnapVDI can store up to, I think it's near about 50 or so templates.
Okay, so that can be done on the fly. All right, let's just keep kind of pounding through, and we've got just one more minute. So this is from Greg from Arnold Technologies. What speed links do you need to get to the data center where the servers are to ensure that is not the bottleneck? So how many VDs per, and then this question got cut off there, it looks like.
Okay, yeah, so SnapVDI can operate with extremely low link speeds, but we would suggest about 100 meg connection, which is typical for Horizon View as well as Citrix. That's primarily for avoiding any type of bottlenecks and artifacts. We can run at lower speeds, but we don't want any of your users complaining. SnapVDI, to answer your second question, SnapVDI is built upon Windows, so we don't actually support Mac OS at this time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I see the question already. All right, well, we have bumped our head against the 2 o'clock mark here, so we're at the end of the presentation. We greatly appreciate everyone's attendance today. We apologize for the WebEx hiccup that it had. It looks like we capped out the event center and we hit over 500 users, so it brought us to our knees temporarily.